Hello, hello. Is anybody out there? Can anybody hear me? Can anybody hear me? Yay! Happy fall, everybody. People are signing in. Hello, Carol. Where are you from, Carol? Hi, Sharon. She's one of our frequent flyers. Always good to see familiar names, if not faces. Christine, hi, Christine. Essex, England. Well, welcome, Carol. Wow, we've got some international folks today. It's wonderful. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Rosemary. Wow. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you like my project for the day. I am Leslie Pope, Senior Designer at TheBeadSmith, hanging out with you guys, and Leslie Rogalski, the other half of Team Leslie, who will be answering any questions you might have in the chat, just in case I don't see it come across the screen while I'm trying to demo the bracelet. Thanks, Christine. This is one of my favorites, too. I'm kind of riffing off of something that I did a few years ago. I like the Paisley duos, and I like how the Paisley duos work with the Baroque cabs. And so I do put them in a lot of things because I really do like the combination of the two. But you don't need a lot of stuff to make the bracelet, strangely enough. It looks very tough and intimidating, but it really is not. So here's the bracelet. So you need Paisley duos, the 2-hole Baroque cabs. They're about 7 millimeters, I believe. Super duos, still the most popular 2-hole check bead on the market. Some size 8s, some size 11s, and some 15s. You're also going to need a couple of closed jump rings, your regular open jump rings, and I'm using the ball and socket clasp, which is it's called the ball and socket because you have a ball on one side and then you just like pop it in and there's your ball and socket. So that's all you need except for your fire line, and then you're going to need a couple of tools. You're going to need your snips to cut the fire line, and then you're going to need 2 pairs of pliers, flat nose or chain nose, to open your jump rings, and you're not even going to need them that much. But anyway, and as always, the pattern is available on the BEADSMITH website under I Love Beads, and this will probably be listed under Super Duos, Paisley Duos, and Baroque cabs. And it's about 5 pages, which most of it are the diagrams. But it's a component project. And as always, once you learn how to do one component, then you don't have any trouble doing the next component. So I'm going to do the first one from start to finish. And then I have stepped out the other two components just so it won't take me forever to do this. So 2 tips on beads, right? Remember to check that all your holes are open for any 2-hole beads. I've already done that because I don't want to take time on camera, so I checked my Super Duos and my Baroque cabs and my Paisley Duos. And the thing about the Paisley Duos are, remember that they have a concave side, which is the side that curves in, and a convex side, which is the side on the outside. And so I will be telling you which hole to go through by either the concave hole, which is the inner curve, or the convex hole, which is the outer curve. So your Paisley Duos are going to sit like this, so they look like petals on a flower. So let me move this guy out of the way. And I'm going to see if I can get this a little, nope. Oh, where are we going? I was trying to get it a little closer without moving the camera too much, because it just gets super wonky when I do that. Oh, come on. Sorry, guys. I'm a little out of practice. And we are now, there we go. All right. Ah! All right. There we go. All right. Nothing's falling over. Okay. So step number 1 is the middle with your Super Duos. So I'm going to pick up an 11 and a Super Duo 4 times. So this is number 2, number 3, number 3, and number 4. And you're going to slide them down almost to the end of your thread and sew through them again. I like sewing through things twice all the time, just to give you a little extra security. And sometimes the holes on the check beads can be kind of rough, so you don't want to braid your thread. And I know the Super Duos are light. I couldn't find a good enough color. But there is your ring. And I'm just going to tie a knot. Don't have to do anything fancy. I'm just going to tie a couple of overhand knots. And then to position yourself for the next row, you're going to sew through the 11 in the next Super Duo, but I'm actually going to go close to the bottom. Thank you. The 11 in the next Super Duo, but all right, and I'm going to sew through a couple just because I want to snip off my tail thread ahead of time, because I know it's going to drive me crazy to try to keep this tail out of the way. So we're going to snip that off. And then we're going to do the reverse direction for the 2-hole bead. So you're going to sew through the top hole of the Super Duo. And so now instead of your thread going to the right, it's going to go to the left. And we're going to add our pairs of Paisley Duos. And we're going to start with a tip concave hole. You're going to pick up a 15, and then you're going to take your next Paisley Duo and you're going to sew through the convex tip hole and through the next Super Duo. So right now they look like mouse ears, but I promise it'll look like a flower. So then we're just going to do that 3 more times to get your sets of paisley duos on. So concave, a 15, and then a convex. You know what? I'm going to push all this stuff further up the board here. Sorry, because I got beads running all over the place. My 15s. Okay, there we go. And then do the next super duo hole. And one more time. Up, and my 15s are jumping around. A little bit of static from the beginning of our chillier days here in Philly, because the calendar might not say that it's fall, but the temperatures are saying that it's fall. Okay, and I see that Leslie put in the link to the PDF for the pattern at in the chat. Okay, and so now we have completed our second row. And normally I would sew all the way around one more time to firm the beads up, but I'm not going to actually do that. I'm just going to go a couple of beads past the join, because you want to go through, whoops, you want to go through. See how floppy that is? If I sewed all the way through, it wouldn't be as floppy. You're going to go through the concave tip of the paisley duo on one of the pairs, and then you're going to sew back through the convex top hole of that same paisley, because you're going to start your third round. So the third round goes a 15, and then you're going to sew through the next paisley, the ones that are sitting close to each other, and then we're going to add our first Baroque cab. So you're going to pick up a 15 and sew through. Can I see what I'm doing? Okay, so we need to sew through a hole so the bumpy side of the cab is going to set face up in your beadwork. There we go. So, and I hate to say left and right and things like that, because some people sew from the right, some people sew from the left. I don't think it would really matter for this. So we're going to sew some beads over top of the cab. So we're going to pick up a 15, an 11, an 8, another 11, and a 15. And we're going to sew through the second hole of the cab. All right, and so there's a little extra space in there, so you're going to have to pick up another 15 before you sew through the next paisley duo. This was kind of simple, aside from the fact that I had to keep changing bead sizes to make sure things fit. So the, like the 11s were too big, but 115 was too small. All these little things about designing that sometimes takes more time than one would think. All right, so that's our first little Baroque cab there. So we're going to do this one more, and we're going to do this number 2, And then we're actually going to do this same thing 3 times. And the fourth cab is not going to have any beads around it, because that is going to be the connection point. So 15, 11, 8, another 11, and another 15. Sew through the second hole of the cab, and don't forget to pick up another 15 before you go through your paisley duo. I keep doing that, and I got around to one side and said, why is this not sitting right? And that one little 15 made all the difference. And here we go, and we're going to pick up another 15, go through the next paisley duo, and I'm just turning this as I go because it just helps me see things. All right, so it's time for our third cab. Same thing. 15, your cab, make sure it's face up. Pick up your 15, 11, 8, 11, and 15, and back through the second hole. And don't forget to pick up your 15 before you sew through that paisley duo. And then our 15, to get that little bit of space in there. I put the 15s between these two facing paisley duos because if I didn't, they were kind of like it was cupping in. So for your fourth Baroque cab, you're not going to put any beads around the outside because this is going to be your connecting point for the other components in the bracelet. But you still have to pick up a 15, sew through, oops, that's the wrong hole. There we go. Sew through the hole, make sure it's face up. And then you're just going to sew back through the second hole of the cab. And you don't have to worry about the thread showing because after you do the connection point, it's not going to show. And then you're going to pick up another 15 and sew through a few beads. And if you listen to my, if you look at the tutorial, I tell you to, to sew through and then tie it off and before you add your second component. So that is your first in component. And don't worry if the 8s aren't going to pop up because you can make them pop up when you do another step. So in order to get the next component attached, you're going to do almost all of the steps except you're only going to have beads over 2 of your cabs. And you're going to have 1 open set of paisleys because this is where you're going to connect the 2 components. And you're going to have your middle Baroque cab here the same way, just sewing around the outside because then that's how you're going to connect your next component. So to connect the end component to your first middle component, you're just going to pick up a 15, sew through the connecting cab from your first component, right? And then you're going to sew through the second hole. And then you're going to pick up another 15 and sew through that paisley. And you're going to sew around a few beads, the same as I said before, and then you're going to secure and end your thread so your component stays firm. So I'm going to do that because it's going to keep pulling until I tie this off. So I'm just going to do like one little tie off. I usually say go through, you know, a bunch of beads before you tie it off and snip your thread, but for expediency's sake, I'm just going to do some quick knots here, weave it through that paisley, and then I'm going to snip it off. Okay, that's that one. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the first component. And it doesn't usually matter where you decide to tie it off. I usually try to get it on the side of my smallest bead because the knot won't go through your bead and jam your thread up, and it probably won't come loose. All right, and of course I just pulled my thread out. So we're going to do Leslie's trick. We're going to needle the thread, not thread the needle. And of course that didn't work because I said that. Put your little thing right between your fingers. There we go. Ta-da! Because I just want to trim this one off. Alrighty. So there is your first component and your second component. You can do as many components as you want, but when you get to your end component, after you do your first row and your second row and you get to your cabs, you're only going to do 3. So once you stick it together, and did I just stick that in a row? Oh, whoops. Okay. Woo! There we go. Okay. First component, second component. So it's the same thing. You have to have one connection spot. So when you start this third row, you're going to do 3 cabochons with the beads over it, and then you're going to connect it at the 4th cabochon like you did in the first one. So let me do that really quick. I know this is not a full-length bracelet, but so we pick up our 15, sew through the cab, just the cab, not the 15 on the other side. So back through the cab, and then through the next paisley and 15s, and then you're all connected. So Rosemary says that one component would be a gorgeous pendant. Probably, except I think it might be a little floppy. It might need some other connection points so it wouldn't be as floppy. But that's a good idea. But that's why I like components, because you can do whatever you want. You can make a bracelet, you can make a pendant, you can make a pair of earrings. If we take a couple of things off, you might be able to even make a ring. I haven't tried that, but Team Leslie, we love our rings, as many rings as we can. Alrighty, so that's secured, and then I'm going to snip that off. So you see it's like a little wobbly, don't like the wobbly. So we are going to add some accent beads on each side of the Baroque cabs to give an extra thread path and a little more stability. And while you're doing that, you will also be able to pop your 8s to make them a true peacoat, because sometimes they need a little help. So you will take another length of fire line or thread and secure it into your beadwork, starting at one point. Like you could start here, you could start there, you could start here, or you could start there. I'm going to start here just because I can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to thread that through, and then I'm going to make my little half hitch knot there to secure it. You can always go back and do another knot and weave your tail thread in if you want. Okay, and so we're going to have to sew around and sew through these beads to get to this 15 where your cabs are connected. And this is how I say you can pop your peacoat. So as you're sewing through, can I see what I'm doing here? There we go. Okay. So you're going to sew through your paisleys and your 15s and your cab. And if you get up through your cab and your 15 and your 11 and you think that your 8 is not popping out enough, you're going to skip the 8 and sew through the 11 and the 15 on the other side. And make sure the thread is under your 8. Tug it a little bit, and see, it pops out. And then we're going to continue sewing through the cab, the 15, the paisley, the 15, until we get to exit the 15 at your connection point. Okay, and then we're going to add a little bit of a few little extra beads around the cab, so it's going to look just like this. So you're going to pick up a 15 and an 11 and an 8, reverse that with an 11 and another 15, and you're going to sew through the 15 on the other side of the cab. We're not going to sew through the cab, we're just going to sew through the 15 on the other side of the cab. And then, so there you go. So you have an extra connection and a little bit of added interest over the cabochon. And so then you're going to continue on to your next cabochon, connection cabochon. So we're going to sew through the beads, and it looks like none of my 8s are popping on their own. So I'm going to have to make all of them pop. So sew through my 15 and my 11. I'm going to skip my 8. Sew through the 11s and the 11 and the 15. Make sure that my thread is underneath my 8. Give it a tug. See the difference between the ones that I pop and the ones that I don't pop? And then we're just going to continue. And then you would sew around the outside of the bracelet. And then you're going to sew, you would do this on the other side of the bracelet as well. And you'll see that after I put this second little decoration on, the bracelet won't wobble as much. I love not having any wobble. Wobble means that at some point in time, your thread is going to get a braid in your piece. So through the 15, and the paisley, pull it a little snug, continue up through your next cabochon. There we go. And I'm going to pop this 8 as well, since they don't want to cooperate today for some reason. Back through those guys. Snug it up. And continue. So if I was doing the whole bracelet, I would continue around, just sewing through. You can put a couple of half hitch knots in if you want. If you don't want your whole bracelet to come apart. But so this would be the end of the bracelet. I would just keep sewing around. Pop that 8 there. And put my little decorations on the other side like I did the first one. What did I do here? Okay. So I'm going to go around the other side, and then I'm going to show you how to add the soldered jump ring on. So when you add your open jump ring, it's not going to pull through the thread. That's why we kind of like doing that. That was one of the first tricks that Leslie Rogowski taught me when I got to BEADSMITH, which goes to show that no matter how long you've been doing this, you can always learn something new that can help you out. I always tell people, take classes, look at videos, add any technique that you think is nice or inventive to your own repertoire. And learning is fun, and I definitely have not learned everything. There's always something to learn. Okay, so I'm just going to pop this one since I'm on this side, and then I'm going to secure this and snip it off because I want to show you, there we go, how to attach the soldered jump ring to one end of your bracelet. There we go. Let's sew through that 15 there. Okay. And I'm going to snip that off. And that's so nice. I really like that. I really do. But you can see just that little bit of extra accent there with the beads around the cabochon. Alrighty. So the final step, if I was actually finishing the bracelet, would be to add the soldered jump ring to the 8 on the end component on each side of your bracelet. Thank you, Carol. I love, love, love picking out colors. I always find that so much fun to pick out colors. Alrighty. So I'm going to secure my thread somewhere at the end of the bracelet leading to the cabochon, and then sew through as many beads as I need to. Man, I'm having a hard time seeing these 15s. Woo! There we go. All right. Having a real hard time seeing stuff today. Oh, you get out of the way. Okay, I'm going to snip that off. Little stray threads always drive me crazy. I always have to get them out of the way. And you're going to sew through the beads over the cabochon and sew through the 8, because you're going to make a loop back through that 8. So you're going to pick up an 11 and an 8 and a soldered jump ring. Whoops, nope, sorry. Whoop, 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 whoop. And another 11, sorry. And then you're going to pick up your soldered ring. And you're going to sew back through the 11. And so there we go. So your ring is now secured through the 11. So then you're going to pick up another 8 and another 11, and you're going to sew back through the 8 you exited, and you're going to be sewing in the same direction. So now you have a little loop of beads and your soldered ring connected at the top. Then I decided to get a little fancy for my reinforcements. I'm going to pick up a 15 and sew through the 11. Okay, I'm going to have to turn this upside down. Sorry, guys. The 11, the 8, and the 11 that you added, and back through the soldered jump ring again. Ugh. There we go. And back through the 11. Just so you have at least 2 passes of thread. You could do more if you want. I think 2 is normally good. And then back through the 8 and 11 and pick up your next 15 and sew back through the 8. And then you would just start sewing back through your bracelet and then secure this thread. And when you add your clasp, you add your clasp to the closed jump ring, and it just gives it a little extra security. So that is the Baroque Blossom bracelet. And if I did the whole bracelet, it would technically look like this. So, and I have a surprise for you guys. So the other bracelet that I did, it's a companion bracelet, and it is called the Cardini Blossoms bracelet, because it's using these little side symbol beads called Cardini. And then there's also some symbol ends and the Super Duo bead substitutes. And it's connected with jump rings, and it's the same thing. You can make as many or as little as you want. If you did want to make a pendant, you could hang some dangles off of the ends of one of the cardini. But we're just trying to show everybody how many different things you can take. So it's basically the same component, just with a little extra metal in it. So you can also find that pattern on the I Love Beads website as well. So I'm sorry that I was a little out of practice, my dears. This is why I guess we should never take any time off because when we do, we forget things. But that is the Baroque Blossoms bracelet. It might, I don't know if we would consider this a stash buster project. We do like trying to do stash busters. So I hope everyone's doing well. I hope you enjoyed my little tutorial and you go and download it. And remember that you can find all of these beads, findings, and tools from your favorite bead reseller, whether they're brick and mortar or online. And we will be back in a couple of weeks. Leslie did this unbelievable loomed bracelet. I can't wait for her to show it to you. In the meanwhile, have fun, keep beading. Remember, we love beads and we love you. Take care. And till we see you the next time. Bye.